Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 121 of the Rent to Rent Success podcast. You are going to love this today. You are going to be lapping it up, I promise you. We have with us Dennis Yentumi, and he is a property investor, property developer. And what I love is Dennis's story. He's a serial entrepreneur. He knew from the age of 18 that money buys you freedom and time, and he wanted some of that. So it's a really interesting story of how Dennis started in minus figures and built up a successful property development business. Now, it hasn't been without its challenges, but I know that what the two things that I love about Dennis is he's very intentional and he's very focused. Nothing with Dennis happens by accident. I don't know if it's always been that way, Dennis, but we will find out more. Now, I first met Dennis through Anthony Abominou, and you may remember Anthony. Do you remember episode 80? 80. You must go back and listen to that one. And Anthony had some very unique ideas about how he does his HMOs. And he introduced me to Dennis. Now, the first time I met Dennis in person, it was at a dinner. And this is how I knew Dennis just goes for whatever he wants. When I came back from the ladies, Dennis was sitting in my seat because he'd seen somebody more interesting, in a different chair, but he doesn't wait to be asked. You just take whatever you want. And I love that energy and I love that attitude. And as I've got to know you, Dennis, I can totally see why you've been successful. And I'm really looking forward to going into that backstory. So, welcome to the show, Dennis Yentumi.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you so much for allowing me to rattle on for a little while with you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And I'd invited you some time ago to join us here on the show, but what
Mhm.
made me come back to you was I happen to be on Clubhouse, and I'm not on Clubhouse very often now. We have our own rent to rent rooms every Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Listeners, take note. Um, but I just happened across a room on Clubhouse, and it was you telling your story. Garfield, Rod Shields were on there, and it was so interesting. I said, Dennis, come on, we need to have you on the show. People are going to enjoy this so much. So take us back to the beginning, Dennis. Tell us about you growing up, and what do you think gave you that little bit of fire?
Um, Growing up, happy childhood, playing, having fun, living life. Um, I think in terms of having that fire, I think I was probably about 18 when I realized, very simple, that the people with the money have the choices and can do what they want, can play the most, basically. So I realized early on that the money thing is something that you got to get sorted,
Mm.
just to release you in life, to do what you want. I have a saying, it's not mine. I believe it's Tony Robbins. You want money so you can do what you want with who you want for however long you want. Um,
Yes.
so that's it, really.
Yeah, and it's so great to get that insight at a young age and to have that real passion to pursue it. So what I thought was interesting is that you decided to not to start in property immediately after university. So tell us
Mhm.
about that decision and what you decided to do instead.
Um, well, as it is now, very, very much into health and wellness, into fitness and training and all that sort of stuff. So I started a health and wellness business. We used to sell health and wellness products, supplements, water machines, and a whole array of cool technology, like health and wellness technology, to UK into the UK market and into Europe. That was going well for 2 or 3 years, and things started to get less lucrative. A lot of Chinese products started entering the market, which was cannibalizing a very small niche market already. So following that, I had to wind that up and get another job. And I've always worked in logistics and purchasing, so it was in that area. Um, did that for about 18 months, and I was made redundant. And that was actually the second time I was made redundant. So after the second time, I said, "That's it. There's no way I'm going back into the 9 to 5 rat race." And I decided that I'm going to put all my eggs in the property basket. But to be honest, that I didn't really have many eggs at that at that time either.
You had minus eggs.
I had minus eggs. I had no basket. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you owed people eggs. People were looking for you.
I actually started my property journey in debt.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, and found a way, I guess.
Yeah, so it's so interesting, isn't it? Because the idea was do this other business, make some money, and then put that money into property. And in the
Hmm.
end, you actually did property, not only property, but property development, which requires more money without money. So I'd love
Yeah.
to go into what gave you the idea that you could.
Um, if I'm honest, I didn't know that I could. I just felt like I had to find a way. I had to try. I had to just get involved, get stuck in, and I just started studying and reading and started trying to get as much information as I could about, what I could do in property. I was looking at courses, short courses, long courses, and being in surveying and all sorts of stuff, and I came across rent to rent
Mm,
and started doing a lot of reading on it. I was basically anything and anything in a book or online that you could get on rent to rent. I,
mm,
I read it or watched it at least once, if not twice.
mm,
And I was like, right, okay, so this is it. I was like, right, this is it. This is the path to get me going again and get me into
mm.
property. You know. Um, so yeah, I dived in head first.
Oh, so tell me about it. How did it go? What were you doing? Was it HMO or was it service?
Yeah, so it was HMO initially. Um, I went on a course. I connected with a few people from the course, so we sort of like keep each other accountable, talk to each other and that sort of stuff. And I just went for it full steam. I picked up the following Monday, I probably picked up the phone, and I said, "Well, look, estate agents have all the properties, so that's where I'll start." And I just rather unglamorous. There isn't any secret sauce. I just hammered the phone and cold called until I got viewings.
Mm.
And back then, 8 years ago, not a lot of people, especially a lot of agents, didn't understand what rent to rent was, or how it worked. So the answer was generally no. But eventually, I got one yes, and then that turned into two, and that turned into three, and I just kept hitting it out. So we would get property from a landlord. Generally, would get on a fairly long lease, 3 to 5 years, and then figure it out. We Some of them we painted them, we whitewashed all the walls, IKEA furniture, which I wouldn't recommend to anyone because obviously if you've got a 6 bedroom house and you've got all the IKEA furniture to put together,
Mm.
it's a lot. um, so we just put all the furniture together, get the rooms ready, make sure the house was compliant, apply for the HMO license, get all the compliance stuff up and running, and just go for it. And then just start advertising for the rooms, start filling the rooms, and then you start realizing all the mistakes you've made that no one teaches you or tells you about. Um, I'm pretty confident I've made all of them along the way.
Yeah. What was I going to say? You see, you distract me when you said nobody teaches you about, it, and I was like, we do. But anyway,
Yeah. Yes, you
but
do. But back then, no one was.
yeah, yeah. No, so let's talk about how you did it because this is one of the scariest things for many people is the idea about they may have got the information and know to call up the agents or go to visit the agents or what have you, but they don't know what to say. They're worried that they've got no experience and that nobody's going to say yes to them. So what do you think? You said there's no secret sauce, but I'd just like to ask you, what do you think did work? Why did you get a property?
Um, I'm extremely diligent. I'm extremely driven. I thought, look, I don't have any experience, but doesn't mean I can't look like I'm not experienced. So obviously, my presentation was always very professional whenever I interacted with anyone, and I created a website, landline number, all my insurances, all the PRS, everything, anything and everything that would be required, I had. So on the surface. Anyone would check me out. I would have, we had liability insurance for, I think it was 2 million or 2.5 million, whatever we needed. We had everything. Everything was in place. And so then the only thing was missing was the property, you know. So, I would approach agents and I would speak to them and say, look, this is an opportunity. I think that's what I was kind of flipped it on them. I said, this is an opportunity for you because it's going to make you look like a rock star in your office. Because if you provide me with properties that meet my specification, I'll take them straight away. And the lords are going to be happy because they're going to have a hands off. Their investment is truly going to become hands off,
Mm.
because we take care of everything, you know. When we started, we gave a little bit too much, but at the same time, that's probably one of the elements that allowed me to get through the door. I would pay for the
Mm.
gas certs. I would do all the little things that after a couple of years in the business I don't do anymore, but
Mm.
I did do at the start, and it just makes your proposition that little bit stronger, that people are saying, okay, we're willing to give it a try. They seem to know what they're talking about.
I like that you brought that up, Dennis. Last week we had Evie, um, and she talked about how she offered 6 months rent up front. Now that's a bit extreme, but
Oof.
it got her first deal. It made it a no-brainer for them to go with her. They were already considering
Hmm.
her, but they weren't
Hmm.
sure. And that just
Hmm.
totally was a slam dunk then. And I love the way she
Hmm.
said that. And then you said, there was a few little things you were doing, paying for the certs and so on, that now you don't
Hmm.
do. And that,
Hmm.
but that people, it just gives people a little bit of extra edge if they've got a few
Hmm.
cards up their sleeve that they could maybe pull out if a deal really
Yeah.
is a good deal and they really
Yeah.
want to get it over the line.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you got your first deal and it was an HMO. How many bedrooms?
6.
Six
Yeah.
bedrooms. And you mentioned it wasn't so good, or it might have been a bit like that. But what was the cash flow like on it?
Oh, it cash flowed great. It cash flowed about nine. It netted 980 a month.
Wow. How is
Yeah.
that dodgy? How is that slightly off?
No,
That's brilliant.
the house was a bit dodgy, but it was huge. The house was
Yeah.
massive, because you know
Yeah.
what, one of the things I garnered from going on courses and sort of stuff. I said what I need is big houses. That's where the
Yeah.
money's at, the big houses, because everyone works out the formulas for like when you start making money on the fifth
Yeah.
room and the sixth room and all that sort of stuff. So I said, right, the bigger the better. So my
Yeah.
focus was purely at the start was only big houses.
Yeah. Big
Six,
houses
five,
only.
six. Yeah, yeah, big houses only. Yeah.
So yeah, no, well you're not wrong, and I think six is a great number to start off with because it's
Mhm.
not too many, but the profits are good, and
Mhm.
then eight other typicals, but the over eights are not the unicorns, but there are fewer of them, so you
Yeah.
come across them more
Yeah.
infrequently. But so you got that property, and then you got another two or three.
Mhm.
And tell us about how you got from you doing your rent to rent, minding your own business, now running that management company. How did you go from there to doing developments?
Okay. For starters, it wasn't overnight. It's taking 6 years, I think, to get there, and I was just basically getting the HMOs up and running. We did a JV with a landlord for his house, and we converted it was a townhouse, and we converted them all into studios.
Mm.
Um, and I was convinced we were going to get £1,000 a month for them. I'd worked out all my numbers, and I was like, this is going to make us so much money. You know, and we got the place ready, and we did an open date, and we couldn't rent any of them for £1,000 a month. We were getting offered, 800 and 900, and I was like, the pain and suffering we had gone through to get the place renovated. We spent way too much money. We'd had nightmare builders. We had so many dramas during the renovation period. We had one of the waste pipes was blocked, so we just done a garage conversion, and basically the waste product, if you can think of what I mean, was basically
Yes.
filling up underneath the the newly built garage floor was just filling up with waste product.
Oh
We
dear.
literally just, it was the last unit, we just finished it, and we had to rip out everything so we could
Oh,
get waste in to basically hoover up the sludge for like 2 weeks of waste product that had been building up. So we've been through so many trials and tribulations. I refused to let them go cheap. And one of my mates has got a tech startup, and he's like, "Dude, you just got to get onto Airbnb." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You've got to get onto Airbnb," and that just was a complete game changer. I I think I stuck one of them on Airbnb. Within the first week I listed it, it got booked for like a month, and it was like £1,400 or £1,500, and I was like, "What?" I was like, I just chuckled to myself. And that evening, I put all of them on there. It was 6 studios. I put all of them on there, and it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
mm,
The numbers we were doing from those 6 studios was literally crazy. Um, that is when I learned that service accommodation isn't a property strategy; it's actually a business, because um, I guess we started at scale with 6 units. You know, at the start, I was focused on occupancy. So my only thing I was concerned about was having 100% occupancy, which is great. But when you've got 6 units and you want to have 100% occupancy, you've got changeovers every day. You've got maintenance almost every other day. Um, you're dealing with guests constantly. Um, and so that's when I really started to focus on systemization and automation. It's something I'm into. I'm a bit of a geek like that. So then I really started focusing on how to create procedures for the cleaners. So the cleaners would have crib sheets. So they would go in, they'll clean, they'll take pictures of any damage and everything, they'll highlight it, and they would also have a crib sheet that they would tick off on what they've done and sign off on the day. They had a calendar. So I basically had one main calendar and several sub calendars that, depending on who you were in the organization, you would see. So the calendars the cleaners would see would be the checkout and check-in dates. So they would know that 11 o'clock on Tuesday there's the checkout, so they would have to clean. My VA also could see that calendar, so then she could organize linens for delivery and collection, and then also my handyman could see it. So if there was ever a repair or something needed, he could see which studio it was and his amount of time he would have free to do it, because obviously I was constantly trying to get a checkout out at 11 and a new check-in in at 3. So I was pushing for constant occupancy. So I had to sort of like focus on how to systemize the business. Otherwise, you get sort of like double bookings, or things aren't ready, guests turn up and they get a bad experience. And Airbnb do something really, really smart by having reviews, because what it does is it makes you hungry for that 5-star review. You'll do absolutely anything to get that 5-star review. So you're very conscious about the user experience, which is a good thing, you know? Yeah.
That sounds like hard work, but it sounds like it
Yeah,
was really
yeah,
worthwhile to do that.
yeah.
And I suppose you've got to go through the fire to get it to a place where it can work without
Oh,
you. Is
absolutely.
that you still running that?
No, I don't run that anymore. But you're right, you do actually go through the fire, because we learned so much along that journey. We started off with sofa beds because they looked great in pictures, but the practicality of them was terrible, because you get a couple German tourists and they don't know how to work the fold out bed, so then they break it inadvertently. You know, and it's one of them ones you can't claim off someone when someone's just like, look, honestly, we've just never used one of these before. We don't know how to
Mm,
open it, you know? And, they've messaged you at like 11 o'clock, and then they say, oh, we'll figure it out. And then after they leave, you realize they've bent one of the metal struts. And, it's not really their fault, because, they've just traveled for 8 hours or 6 hours, and they're just trying to get some shut eye. So there's so many little details, things like linens. Initially, I didn't use a linen service. I went to Tesco and bought like 30 towels, grey towels, and bed sheets and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, well, we've got 2 washing machines and a tumble dryer on site. We can just do it all on site. Firstly, let's say you might have 4 changeovers in the same day. you literally physically don't have enough time to get all the linen washed, cleaned, ready. Or even if you have extra sets of linen, then you've got guests there and your cleaner's just standing around like, what's going on, while she's just trying to get the stuff ready for the next thing. And after a while, you'll find that, after a couple of weeks, that linen looks terrible. It looks absolutely awful.
Yes. Yes, that's why they have white linen, just so they can hammer it,
That's why they
bleach
have,
it and boil
yeah,
it, basically. Because I
exactly.
always used to think, oh, why do they have white linen? But yeah, I got
Yeah.
that. So you've got your HMOs that's running.
Hmm.
You do this JV. You get these 6 studios, and what happens next?
So yeah, so more more HMOs, working on other people's projects, helping. I created in that time. I was creating a lot of HMOs for other people, um,
Mm,
because they'd seen the sort of stuff I'd done, and they're like, "Oh, I want a HMO." So sort of like handhold, do that. Did my first HMO in 2020.
mhm,
Um, Converted a 3-bed into a 5-bed luxury HMO.
mhm.
Oh, actually, I've missed out a piece. I did my first attempt at development, was 2016, 2017. We got a backyard development piece of land, and we were trying to build a 3-bedroom house on it. Didn't really go according to plan. The vendor tried to shaft me, and after we spent a lot of time and money, and finally got planning on the site, he sold the site to someone else.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. And it was 18 months in the process, and I didn't have him. We had effectively like a pre-contract, but we didn't have a proper option of contract signed.
yeah.
So it got quite messy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so that's the thing. This is the thing. There's several things, but one of them is Dennis. You said it's been
Hmm.
6 years in the making, but actually, it hasn't been 6 years until you started development because you're talking now 2016, 2017. That's pretty early on
Hmm.
from when you started
Yeah.
doing your rent to rents. Did you
Hmm.
start? What year did you start doing your rent to rents in?
December 2015,
So you
I think. Yeah,
started at the
December
end of
15, November
2015. So
15.
let's say it's the beginning of 2016. Um,
Hmm.
so within 18 months of starting, you're
Hmm.
doing these other creative strategies, buying properties, helping other people do their own HMOs, etc.
Hmm.
So it's all along the way that now you've come the full, not full circle, but you've gone right from just starting off in debt with your rent to rents to
Hmm.
doing bigger developments, which we'll come on to. And you've done all of that
Hmm.
within the 6 year period. And I say that just to remind people that I often talk about the magic of 5 and the magical power of 5 years doing something consistently. It's transformative from where you were, okay, 6 years ago in this case, in minus figures with no eggs in your basket, and indeed no basket, to now
Yeah.
with multi-million pound developments
Yeah.
that you're developing. And in the next 5 years, and the next 5 years, and the next 5 years after that, it'll be again transformative.
It's a plan.
So tell us about you did these deals, yeah, and then when the sludge hits the fan, isn't it? When the sludge hits the
Hmm.
fan, this is what we're talking about again. You give us example in the studios. The sludge literally
Hmm.
did.
Literally.
And then now you're doing this a deal with a vendor that takes 18 months only to find that he sold the land to
Hmm.
somebody else. And
Uh-huh.
then move us along to how it comes into the sort of development side of things.
Okay. So we had to litigate, we had to fight. We won in court, which was good, which took some more time. Um, as I said, did a very nice HMO, um, that cash flows really well. I think also I just got to really point out that, um, as I'm rattling through it, not everything worked, not everything cash flowed really well.
Mm,
We took some properties on that were in Article 4. We didn't know they were in Article 4,
mm, mm,
because I was rampant. when I mean I was rampant, I was rampant. You know, if I looked at a property and it ticks all the boxes, you know,
Mm.
whether I had the money or not, or you know, I would basically say yes.
Mm.
Um, but when you do that, you tend to make mistakes in your assessment on a property, how well it will rent, how the
Mm.
numbers look, um, and potentially, you know, there's always something else. There's always, you know, something else you would have missed that you know, you just don't see because you're so sort of after it. But then following on from that, just really putting the feet to the ground, constantly looking for potential deals, rent to rent deals, HMO deals, development deals. Because I always knew I wanted, you know, to get into developments. I've always been looking for I've always been looking for for development deals. And after I finished my HMO, that went really well. I was like, right, you know, I want to scale up. I want to size up really. So that's when I decided to look for a development deal. Well, I was still looking for a development deal, rather jump into a development deal, I should say. You know.
So, tell us about the first one. How did you find it? What happened?
So what I'm working at the moment, how did I find it? I actually found it through a sourcer. I actually found it through
Mm.
a development deal broker.
Mm.
He said he had two deals. I moved, so my portfolio is predominantly in West London, but I moved to Southeast London, near Bromley, and so one of my key focuses was to try and start finding deals within 45 minutes of where I lived. You know, so I sort of shift my focus, looking around Southeast London, looking around Kent,
Mm.
and the steel broker said, "Oh, I've got two deals. One of them's in Dartford as a potential HMO, and the other one was in Faversham in Kent." So I was like, "Okay, cool." I looked up Faversham. I said, "It's 45 minutes exactly, almost exactly to my house." I said, "There you go, that could work." And Dartford is close by as well. So I had a look at both those deals. The Dartford deal wasn't really a very good deal, but the Faversham deal was intriguing. You know, it was commercial to resi, which I was very, you know, it was definitely on my radar to do. It was 6 units, you know, so I kind of saw it as just like a large HMO.
Mm.
Because if you think about it, a HMO, all the stuff I do, all I want them all to have en suites. Um, so really, all you're doing is you're adding in, you know, a few kitchens and a few extra hallways.
Mm.
That's the way, you know, that's the way I saw it in terms of the size difference. So I thought, yeah, you know, this is something I could definitely do. Um, did a bit more research. Well, actually, I'm lying. I did tons and tons of research. I spent hours and hours studying the area, doing drive-bys through the area, find out what the area is about, um, poured over the numbers, tons of analysis. To be fair, analysis paralysis at one point because I was just constantly looking at this and I was like, this is such a good deal. It just works. And I was convinced that, you know, I'd probably miss something. Uh, Fortunately, you know, like I said on previous occasions, I had someone like Garfield to lean on to say, right, I've got this deal. I know it's a deal, right? What do you think? You
Mm.
know, and sometimes I think it's really important to have that, you know, a wise old head or, you know, a friend you can bounce ideas off who can give you the honest critique to say, actually, yeah, that's a good deal, you know? And then you're like,
Mm.
yes, I knew it was a good deal. I just needed, you know, that sort of
But
like to
Garfield
get out
didn't
of my
think
own
it
head.
was. He didn't think it was a good deal at first. I should just say we're talking about Garfield Reese here, who
Yeah.
is a veteran. Um, yeah, let's put it
Yeah,
that way.
he recognized the quality in the deal, but he said, you're gonna have to work on it, otherwise it's not a deal I would take,
Mm.
you know.
It was tight.
Um, yeah, it was tight. It was tight. It was tight. Um,
At,
but I think just like how what I had spotted, he had spotted that there was value in it. Um, and it's just about finding out how to extract it.
and talk to us about that because what I really enjoy when I'm talking to you is you just look around you and find evidence that you could do it. So whereas some people might
Absolutely.
look some people might look and think, okay, this commercial property can go to 6 flats. That's too big for me. I'm used to HMOs. And your thought is, I'm used to HMOs. That means this is perfect for me. This 6 flats is perfect for me. I'm in. So
I
tell
think
us why it was a bit tight at the beginning and how you saw some new opportunity.
right. So another reason why I was excited to go for it because it already had planning for 6 flats.
Mhm.
So I said, well, look, there's a level of security there because it already has planning. Um, we had a commercial unit on the ground floor and the 6 flats. The planning that had already been achieved created 6 very small units. In the borough of Swale, they have a lower space standard than the national space standards of like 37 square meters for one bed. Theirs is much lower. Um, so I recognise that they haven't really optimized the planning. They've got planning for 6 flats, but they haven't optimized it. So really, it was a way to look at how I could uplift it through improving the planning game initially. So I spent a lot of time trying to rejig the layouts to try and get a bit more value. And then I looked at loads of stuff. I looked at digging out the basement, which had been cost prohibitive. I looked at putting an extra floor on top of the mansard. So basically, we're putting a new floor. We're building one floor above, and I looked at putting 2 floors above. Obviously, if you're in central London, that's fine. You see 2-story mansards all over the place. But in a small market town like Faversham, the massing of the building wouldn't have quite worked. We looked at getting rid of the commercial tenant and converting that into residential, which is actually what we went for in the end, because obviously that's another 60 square meters of floor space that we could add that would increase the GDV. So really, it was just a case of, as they say, sweating the asset. Really, really sweating the asset, spending a lot of time looking at how you can optimize the floor plan to increase the size of the units, therefore increase the potential GDV.
And what came across in that clubhouse room is something that all of us in property will have experienced, is that although you do need to have professionals, you also need to trust your own wisdom, because what you found was the professionals came up with some ideas of how the property could be split up, but you actually came up with better ones.
Yeah, yeah. They were the architects I had on reflection. For me personally, they were a nightmare. They were not really helpful. They were not really They were not really creative in finding solutions. They put forward a few things that didn't really work. That just I had to get like a daylight sunlight study for one of their proposals, even though initially I had one look at it and I knew it didn't work. So we started going backwards and forwards, and after a while I just left them to it and just did it myself. Something I stress a lot now going through this experience, that we have these professionals, these so-called professionals. Some of them are good, them in my experience so far are not. They are, they're just giving their opinion, really. um,
Yes.
and if it works out, great. If it doesn't, too bad. They still got paid and they walk away, and you're left holding the baby. So if you're that's one of the things I realized being a developer. What that means is the buck stops with you. Every
Mhm.
single decision,
Mhm.
you're gonna you if it works out well, you're gonna benefit. But if it doesn't, you're gonna feel the pain. So every single decision you have to take 100% responsibility. You can't ever say, oh well, my surveyor sorted it out, or my architect done it, so it's cool. No, 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 no. Unless I'm checking it, it ain't right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you learn to trust yourself so much more, because you think initially, or I certainly did, for example, solicitors, oh, they know the law, they understand this much better than I
Hmm.
do. Not at all. They may understand it much better than I do, but quite a few times I found that actually we understand things much better than them, because we're
Absolutely.
working in property, we're business people, we're trying to create something. They're employees and they've got an employee mindset. Now, I
Hmm.
know that many people listening to this are employees, and good for you because your employers are paying for you to to go off and do whatever you then choose to do. Um, but the employee mindset for people who do not have this ambition, who are not listening to podcasts like this, who do not want to change anything, is totally different. I.e., they're just
Absolutely.
there to do a job,
Hmm.
and in some cases they want to do it well. In other cases, they just want to do it. In some cases, they don't even want to do it.
You want to do
But
it?
but you've got to trust yourself. You've got to, as you said, focus. You know, you were focused on researching, on knowing, on
Hmm.
understanding, and then
Hmm.
seeing how it applies to what you have and how you can
Yeah.
use your space in a more efficient manner. I
Hmm.
mean, so what would you say to someone, you know, if they were thinking of, they were in your situation? Many people are, especially after the situation of the last few years. Perhaps they're in debt. They want to get started in property. It's always been their dream, but now they're in debt. They don't have any eggs. They don't have a basket. Um,
Hmm.
what would you say to them?
I would say, it's a simple choice, as most things are a simple choice. Um, you either want to do it or you don't want to do it. The reason I
Mm,
say it's a simple choice is because you either do or you don't. I didn't mention anything about whether it's possible, whether it's easy, or whether it's hard. I just said it's a simple choice because once you make that choice, you burn all your bridges behind you. You'll be very surprised that the harder you work, uh, I think the saying is the harder you work, the luckier you are. But I think the harder you work, the more potential opportunities or openings start coming to you. You know,
yeah,
just through sheer determination and hard work. If you're starting from ground zero, then you're
yeah,
starting at the best place that you could possibly be, because
yeah.
there isn't anything as such thing as a mistake when you're starting at zero. Everything's a mistake because you don't know anything. You know, so I would say if you're serious, get onto someone's courses like yourself, and just be
Mm,
super diligent and just keep driving. When you get a
mm,
no, just understand that means not right now. That doesn't, it's not
mm,
permanent. You know, when something goes wrong, um, the most important thing is to learn the lesson from it, dust yourself off, and go again, because
mm,
um, we have this idea that you're going to reach a certain point where you're not going to make mistakes anymore, or everything's going to
mm,
become easy, and it doesn't. All that happens is the mistakes change and the problems change, because doing HMOs now, I'm not going to say I could do it with my eyes closed, but there's certain problems that you might face or certain issues you might face, and I'll have a solution for it. I can be like, oh yeah, you can just do this and do that, and it's fine. you know but now, I've stepped up again into development, and I realize there's loads of stuff I don't know, and there's
mm,
probably more mistakes I'm going to make along the way. But
mm,
when you look at that and say, right, before I start, I understand it's going to be difficult. I'm going to make loads of mistakes along the way, but over time I'll get better. Then all of a
mhm,
sudden, when something goes wrong, it's not the end of the world. You're like, well, I was kind of expecting something like this. Let me take the lesson from it. Let me dust myself off. Let me speak to people who are smarter, wiser, and ahead of me. Learn some more, and go again, best foot forward. Just keep going.
mm,
It's a massive problem I think we have now, that people try one or two things. I've tried everything. No, you've tried one or two things. You know,
mm,
keep going. Go
mm,
from failure to failure. Don't lose any enthusiasm, and just keep going until you get to where you want to be. You know.
mm. It's because I just love the what you said, so Dennis, and how you said it. But it is, you've got that vision. So you can see that you're a developer. You can see what you create already in your mind.
Hmm.
It's already real for you. So no matter what happens, when the architect gets things wrong, when the builders go wrong, when such and such materials are no longer on site, or when
Hmm.
something's turned up on site that's the wrong thing, that now needs to be paid for again, you know the vision, you know what you're creating. So these are all just little stopping points. Oh, I see you've arrived. Okay, let's move on.
That's it.
And what people forget is that when they choose to be, not everybody's miserable in their job, but for some people, they're choosing to just stay miserable in their job. What they're forgetting is they think that's the safe part. but
Yeah.
that is also a 50-50 experience. So there's things they enjoy about it, there's things they hate about it, but they're traveling towards a destination that they don't want to. And that destination is financial insecurity, because you could be made redundant at any moment. If you're just getting all your money from that job and you're spending it on your lifestyle, and you're getting paid and spending it on your lifestyle and getting paid and spending it on your lifestyle, if you're not investing and you're not buying assets, then you're not creating that sustainable future where you have the time and the money freedom. And that's what I want to, inspire people towards with what we talk about on Rent to Rent Success podcast. Yes, we're talking about a business where you make money, but we're also talking about what do you do with the money that you make in your rent to rent or other business, or even in your job. You then can invest it in assets, whether it's in stocks and shares investing or whether it's property investing or whatever it is. So I just want to commend you on everything you've done, and for
Thank
now
you.
beginning to share it. And tell us what stage you're at with the six. Is it six flat?
Six flats. Yeah. So we have just finished all the demolition. We've we've got a scaffold up, the roof's off, the building is kind of like at its weakest point. All the internal walls are down.
Mhm.
So the next phase is just to start getting all the pad stones in, getting the steel, and start sort of mapping out the new floor plan from the ground all the way up to the new roof level. So it's quite an exciting stage as the sort of like the new build is being interfaced with the existing building. Yeah, it's quite exciting.
And tell us a little bit about the numbers. You might not know them inside out, but what you bought it for, what you think it'll be worth at the end, and when you think it'll be completed.
When it'll be completed.
Yeah, I know.
um,
I know.
we've spoken about this before. So I bought it for 375. We're looking at a development cost of around 450. And we're looking at a GDV just under 1.4 million.
So go on.
There's a whole bunch of fees.
Yeah.
Huge. In fact, I
Yeah.
say a whole bunch. What I really mean is there's a massive chunk of fees into those numbers, which skew the numbers a little bit. They don't make them sound as amazing as it is, because there's obviously lending fees, development fees, purchasing fees, a whole array of other costs that go into a development project that, funny enough, until you actually go through a development project from start to finish, a lot of these costs you don't see, you don't know, and they're constant. We just did what did we do at this turn of the year? Just as we started, we did a road condition survey. I'd never heard of a road condition survey before. But it's just one more thing we need to get done. We had a huge amount of asbestos in the building that wasn't planned for. That's adding about 15K onto the budget. With the planning that we got, they wanted us to have reach a certain level of energy efficiency for the SAP report. That's like the EPC. So we've got to have solar panels on the roof. That's looking like another 4 or 5K. So there's a lot of costs that creep their ugly heads along the way.
Yeah, especially in development. And I feel for you when you say, you're not sure when it'll finish. We had a project for 4 flats that was supposed to finish last year, which is still not finished. So I think it'll be coming up to its anniversary soon. But
Yeah,
hopefully
we
finish.
are on for 24 weeks, so we should finish in August.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would love to have you back on another time to talk about how you're financing all these things. That's over 800
Absolutely, we'd love to.
grand. And I know that you had some private finance, you've used development finance. And I think there would be a lot to talk about there about how you do it when you're starting off, when you're not got everything in place, or finances, and you're using other people's. Is there anything else that you want to add that I haven't asked you about today?
the one thing I was thinking, I think I just wanted to add is that I think the key is mindset. Um,
Mm,
every once in a while, people touch on it, and it's sort of like, um, it's never front and center. It's never like, right, we're going to sit down and talk about for an hour mindset. And really, that is the key factor in your success or your failure. And in fact, everyone's success or failure, because just like you highlighted at the start, I didn't know before that the money's already there. You just create it, but that's a mindset thing. And once you get your mindset right, you know, a major things are possible. And the other part of getting your mindset right is guarding your thoughts. So the people you have around you really should be supporting your mindset, because it's really, really easy to get on the right track and then slip off simply because you're getting negative images and negative words that are being, swelling around you, that get inside your head and pull you off track. So I really, really want to sort of impress upon people that your mindset is probably the most important factor in your success and you taking action and taking the first step. Because if your mindset's right, then you're willing to take the first step, even if you can't see the second.
truth. Preach. So let me ask you, because people will be listening thinking, well, what does it actually mean in practice? How does one get one's mindset right? So, what do you actually specifically do, or what would somebody do if they can look around and see that the results that they're creating with their mind are not serving them? How do they take the
Mhm.
step to move toward?
Uh, ooh, right. Okay. I love this topic, by the way. Um, I think the first step is having a compelling vision. Um, it's got to be completely personal. And also, I think it doesn't matter what it is, you know. People say, "Oh, you've got kids, they're my why." I'm like, listen, if your why is just to make loads of money to be filthy rich, that's if it propels you forward, that's good enough. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you have a compelling vision for your life. That's it. And then everything you do or say should be around pulling you closer to that vision. So if people want to talk about the latest topics in the news, blah 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 blah, if that conversation isn't serving you and isn't supporting where you want to go, come out of that conversation. You know, if people think you're obsessed because all you want to talk about are GDVs and land costs and the price of cement, guess what? Then they're not the people you need to be talking to. Come talk to me. I will happily talk to you about the price of timber and GDVs and land all day. And there's tons of weirdos just like us all out there who are only interested in, okay, cool. So you've got your first HMO. How much rent are you paying? Okay, how have you factored energy bills, because they're going to be rising? Oh yeah, so look, yeah, we're going to increase the cost of rents. Okay, so what are you netting off each room? Okay, yeah, cool. Is that room big enough? Oh, let me check. Oh no, it's too. All the small details that make a big difference. This is what you've got to be obsessed about, and just keeping your mind focused on what your mind needs to be focused on. Because when you've got that compelling vision, it's not really like hard work, because
No.
you know you enjoy doing it. I'm quite comfortable sitting up to 2 a.m. Sifting through Rightmove or sifting through development site emails, or looking at I'm trying to think of something random, like looking at quotes from building control, or looking at quotes from acoustic consultants, and trying to think, oh, they're saying I should use this material and that, and why, and then they've specified a certain type of eco acoustic foam, and then I go down a rabbit hole and spend an hour researching acoustic eco foam or insulation, you know.
Well, Dennis, I so enjoy talking to you. I could go on. We've gone longer than we should have done. I feel so much importance of mindset, and I love having people on who have got this when they're young, and they've tuned in and they know what they want. For me, I found the mindset when I was much older, and that made it so much more real, because I used to hear people talk about mindset and really actually roll my eyes. But those that opinion was shown in the results that I created in my life. And as soon as I changed my thinking into the intentional focus that you're talking about, Dennis, the results just blew up. And
Yeah.
so it's so clear to me how important this whole mindset is. So I really want to thank you for putting that into words and, for putting it into actions and bringing it today. We'd love to have you join us again another time.
Thank you.
You've been an incredible inspiration. Oh, and people should join and watch and see this building go up at ratio_property, RATIO_property. And if you want to see Dennis sitting in his car, you can go over to the Rent to Rent Success website, renttoRentSuccess.com/121. He's got a lovely smile over there. Okay, thanks, Dennis, for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you for watching and for listening. I will see you guys again next week. Until then, believe bigger, be bolder, be a game changer. See you soon.